the lie we practiced in the elevator. The first time I lied to myself about Arya was in an elevator that smelled like citrus cleaner and money. 12 glass-walled floors, a view of the bay that made traffic look like choreography, a mirrored ceiling where my face looked like a mask. She stood next to me with the calm of a person who never hurries and never apologizes, her reflection sliced into panels. I could count 3 versions of her, and none of them belonged to me. I told myself I didn't want them to. We were headed up to a private tasting, my best friend Julian's pre-wedding, thanks for investing, event for a boutique gin he'd backed. He had the kind of charisma that turned an apology into a sales pitch. I had the kind of job that turned a romance into a spreadsheet. Auditor by day, reluctant confidant by night, the one who kept receipts while other people kept secrets. Arya was not Julian's fiancée. That was Mara, all grace under deadlines, the one who could stand in 5-inch heels and make a quarterly plan sound like poetry. Arya was Mara's older sister, the family outlier, art world publicist, allergic to consistency, famous in small circles for getting people to whisper the right things at the right parties. The first time I met her, she complimented my watch and asked what I was hiding from. I told her taxes. She laughed like we had invented a private club. The elevator opened with a hush. The host said our names as if they mattered more than the gin. Arya drifted to the window. I followed because I always did. From this high, the city looked honest. The sun caught on the bay and made it seem like the water was reconsidering all its bad decisions. "You clean up," she said, and glanced at my reflection rather than my face. "Didn't know you owned sincerity in dark blue." "Rented," I said. "How? Publicizing things that don't need publicity." "It's like convincing fireworks to be louder," she said. "You." "Balancing books that don't want to be balanced," I said. "We're both in noise management." She leaned close enough for a whisper to belong on my skin. "And what about truth management?" "That's above my pay grade," I said, which made her smile the way a cat smiles at a birdcage. We were not a scandal yet. We were a rehearsal. I told myself I liked the stage but had no intention of performing. Then Julian took the mic and made sincerity sound like a brand. He praised Mara, kissed her temple, thanked investors by name. He didn't mention Arya, who raised her glass anyway, eyes on me, a dare unpoured. After the speech, there were handshakes, lips on cheeks, napkins pretending to wipe away consequences. I found Mara checking her phone, the efficient calm of someone who builds tomorrow in her head before the rest of us find our shoes. "Can I steal you?" she asked. "Short crisis. The caterer messed up the vegan board and Arya will cause a small, beautiful riot if we don't fix it." "I'm good with vendors who prefer being scolded by men," I said. "You're good with everyone who thinks they're right," Mara said. "Which is everyone?" By the time we located the caterer, the crisis had been solved by Arya herself, who had rearranged the plates into a display that looked like a museum exhibit on edible restraint. She caught my eye and signed an invisible autograph in the air, as if she'd just done me a favor I'd never forget. Later, after too many sips and not enough food, I found her alone in a stairwell with the unreasonably cinematic view. The party was above us, the city below. She held a coupe glass the way you hold a secret, lightly, like it might fly away if you admitted you wanted it. "You disappear well," she said. "Most men don't know how." "I can make a career out of it," I said. "Sometimes I do." "You look like a man who keeps things organized so you don't drown," she said. "Does it work?" "Mostly," I said, which was the wrong answer because she stepped closer. "I'm not here to ruin anyone's life," she said. "I'm here to remind you that it's yours." "You're Mara's sister," I said, as if numbing the boundary made it real. Boundaries are lines we draw to make crossing them feel deliberate, she said. Do you want to be deliberate? She smelled like bergamot in an argument. I took her glass, set it on the step, and kissed her like I knew the fire alarm code. She kissed back like a woman who timed exits with applause. It was quick. It was wrong. It was oxygen. It was a little bit holy. When we broke apart, she didn't look away. We won't talk about this, she said. So it can be fiction, I said. So it can be ours, she said. That's how it started, with a stairwell and a lie. It could have ended there too, but that would have required us to be the kind of people we were. We built a private vocabulary that fit into ordinary sentences. Coffee meant the bar at the lobby of the With table by the Fern. Can you send me that deck? Meant midnight at my place, shoes by the door, lights low, the kind of touch that knows how to behave in public and refuses. We were careful, we were stupid. We were careful about being stupid. I told myself it was temporary, a fever that the calendar would break. I promised myself I wouldn't bring Arya into rooms that belonged to Mara. And then the rooms began to follow us. It happened on a Sunday afternoon during the slow churn before a wedding week begins. I was at Julian's apartment to help assemble favor boxes, miniature gins, personalized matches, a thank you card printed in a font that made sincerity look expensive. Mara had gone to pick up linen samples. Julian had gone to pick up his ego from the gym. I was folding tissue paper into corners when Arya let herself in. She wore sunglasses even though the windows did all the work. When she removed them, her eyes were thunder and appetite. She stood in the doorway like it was a line she could step back over if I said one sensible thing. I didn't say it. We're alone, she said, and I love your hands when they're annoyed by small tasks. We should, I began, and she reached behind her to lock the door with a click that sounded like a vow made by liars. We moved through the living room carefully, like thieves in a museum. We kissed with restraint that insisted on being broken. I told myself we'd stop at breath, at palms on shoulders, at lips learning the geography they already knew. We didn't. The afternoon softened into a shape that our bodies were good at making. It was slow and unhurried and completely doomed. When we finally remembered the clock, the room smelled like citrus and the faint salt of almost confessions. The door handle turned. We were dressed when Julian came in, but you don't need nakedness to be guilty. He looked at us the way an actor looks at a line he's sure he didn't write. Did I miss the fun? He said lightly. The sentence was a test. Only if you're a fan of origami, Arya said, lifting a favor box with 2 fingers. He's a savant. Julian laughed too loudly and went to the kitchen. He opened a cabinet he didn't need to open and closed it. Mara texted, he said. She saw you pass her on the street, Arya. You didn't wave. I avoid waving, she said. It suggests availability. Being unavailable is your brand, he said, not unkindly. They looked at each other with a history I didn't know. I was suddenly aware that my archive of secrets had a missing folder. When Julian left the room to fetch something from the bedroom, Arya whispered, "He knows about my tendencies, not my specifics." "Do you want him to know?" I said. "No," she said, "do you?" I shook my head and felt something inside me mark the moment as a ledger entry with a red flag. That night Mara called me while I pretended to read. "Small weirdness," she began. "Arya sent a message meant for someone else. It said, 'He's not careful, but I am.' Do you know who he is?" My heart imitated a drum solo. I tried to sound bored. "Probably a client flirting with court dates." "Probably," she said. "You're my sanity check, you know." "I'm only sane on Tuesdays," I said, and she laughed the laugh that made me want to deserve better. The mistake, the real one, arrived on a Wednesday. I was at the office late. The custodial crew had already atomized the day. I opened my email and found a video file sent from an unknown address with the subject line, "Elevator etiquette." I should have deleted it. I opened it. The footage was from the hotel elevator camera, angle from the corner, timestamp of the night that tasting changed our weather. There I was, well-behaved in a blue suit. There was Arya a foot between us, eyes that knew how to travel. The video should have been uninteresting. At 14 seconds, the elevator stopped between floors and the doors stayed shut on a breath. We turned to each other and didn't touch. The angle made not touching look like an embrace. It was a whisper with a frame. Attached, I like rehearsals, do you, Jay? There are only two men in our orbit who sign with a single letter like a brand. Julian was one. I called Arya. She answered on the second ring, already angry at fate. "He sent it to me too," she said. "He likes turning attention into a currency. He thinks we're in debt." "He wants something," I said. "He wants everything," she said, "but he'll settle for leverage." "What did you tell him?" I said. "That it was nothing. That the camera makes intimacy out of geometry," she said. "That you were practicing a speech." "What else did you say?" I said. She exhaled. That I would make sure the story stayed clean if he kept his hand steady. My stomach did a subtle roll. "He asked for me to do something," I said, and opened the second email. It was from Julian this time, no mask. "Need you to cast an expert's eye on the launch numbers," he wrote. "We've gilded them. I need them to look believable. Do it for Mara." For Mara. He dangled her name like a parachute. It worked. The ground beneath me softened. I met him the next night at a private room where the waiter pretended not to have ears. He poured his own drink. He didn't offer me one. "Tell me it's fine," he said. "It's not fine," I said. "It's mostly fine if you massage the definition of pre-orders. But your margins assume a reality where bartenders pour dreams by the ounce." "Dreams are my margins," he said. "Can you make the slides behave?" "I can make them less loud," I said. "But if Mara asks me—" "She won't," he said, and smiled the kind of smile that had sold more than gin. "She believes in you." "I don't want that to be a weapon," I said. "Then don't let it," he said. "You sound like you think I'm the villain. I'm just trying to launch a bottle and a life." He stood, came around the table, squeezed my shoulder. His cologne smelled like forest pretending to be ocean. "We're men," he said. "We keep our mess tidy." "Speak for yourself," I said, but my tone was soft, which was its own betrayal. I doctored the deck. I didn't erase the lies, I rearranged the commas. It was the kind of sin accountants invent to sleep at night and wake up profitable. I sent the file and felt my integrity knock from the trunk, asking for water. 2 days before the wedding, Mara came by my place with extra programs and an expression that looked like a sunrise approaching a storm. "I found something," she said. "Julian's browser history is worse than mine." "You can't scare me," I said. "Search term, how to delete elevator footage hotel," she said, and the room tilted. I could have confessed. I could have told her about the video, about the stairwell, about the smell of bergamot that wouldn't leave my cuffs. I could have asked her how to be the man she thought I was. Instead, I practiced the lie we'd learned in the elevator. I didn't touch the truth, which made it look like I was hugging it. "Maybe he watched a thriller," I said. "Maybe he was practicing being responsible." "Responsibility looks different in my house," she said. She sat, placed her head in her hands, then lifted it. "If there's some stupidity I need to know about, tell me." "I'd tell you if there was," I said. My mouth formed the sentence like it was legally required. She touched my wrist and nodded. "Good," she said, "keep me honest." That evening, I went to the roof of my building and waited for Arya. She came in a black dress that didn't apologize for anything. The wind made her hair look like the beginning of a speech. "He's pushing," she said. "He wanted to meet at the elevator where we did nothing. He wanted to say words like loyalty and timing. I told him I don't respond to stage directions." "What does he want from you?" I said. "Everything," she said again. "But he'll settle for knowing I want you." We didn't kiss. The city deserved a night without witnessing us. We stood side by side, two people with calculus on their tongues, pretending the skyline was a solvable equation. "What if we stop?" I said. "And pretend we never rehearsed," she said. "We could. People are magicians. They can vanish whole acts." "Would you forgive me if I chose Mara?" I said, and the audacity of the sentence stunned us both. "You mean if you chose not to devastate her," Arya said. "If you chose a version of yourself that didn't want me, forgiveness would be the least of it. I might even respect you." "You're lying," I said. "So are you," she said, and we laughed softly, a duet with a bruise in it. The day of the rehearsal dinner, Julian sent me one more message, a text with a photo of the elevator camera's black dome. "Blink if you're loyal," he wrote. I sent back a period. He replied with a thumbs up that felt like a hand around my throat. At the dinner, toasts piled on toasts. Arya sat opposite me, bare shoulders catching light, a mirror for a sin I could see everywhere. Mara glowed like competent love. Julian shone like a brand new coin flipping through the air. I stood for my toast and talked about longevity as if I believed time respected wishes. Mara's eyes shone, Julian's glinted. Arya's mouth twitched into something like sorrow. After dessert, I found Julian near the service entrance, calculating an escape. "Got your slide edits," he said. "We'll be legends." "Legends are just lies that learn to run," I said. "You'll feel better after the vows," he said. "Everyone does." "I won't," I said, and he looked at me like I'd confessed a magic trick. "You don't have to like me," he said. "You just have to work." Then Mara appeared, his name already on her lips, and he folded her in, and I hated him less for how well he held her. That night I sent Arya a single line. "The elevator stops where we tell it to." She replied with an address, the width, table by the fern. I didn't go. I showered instead, water too hot, skin too honest. I slept badly and woke with a decision that felt like a clean cut on a messy page. I went to the venue early. The florist eyed me like I might knock over the peonies. I waited by the elevator, the one the photographers loved because it framed faces like movie posters. When Arya walked in, she looked like a secret I didn't deserve. I stepped in front of her. "Before you go up," I said, "I need to make something not happen." "You want to break it clean," she said. "I want to keep something intact," I said. "Mara's belief that the world, while flawed, is navigable." "And yours," she said, voice small now. "I don't know if I get to keep mine," I said, "but I can choose not to turn it into a weapon." She closed her eyes, opened them. "I hate you," she said without heat. "I hate me too," I said with plenty. The elevator arrived, empty and fluorescent and indifferent. We didn't get in. We watched it open and close and open again as if it were practicing too. Then Mara came around the corner, saw us, smiled. She took my hand. She took her sister. She lifted them both. "Come on," she said. "We're late for the pictures." We stepped into the elevator and didn't touch. The camera watched, patient, the way machines are. 12 floors up, music and vows waited to make liars of us in kinder ways. Arya looked straight into the lens for a heartbeat, then turned to face the doors. I watched our reflections blur. I practiced the truth I'd tell if I ever grew brave enough to deserve it. I held my breath as the elevator rose, and when I exhaled at the top, it sounded like a promise no one had heard but me.